If you are stuck on someone who gives you warmth and then disappears, I want you to hear this in a way that actually changes how you move. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You are reacting to a specific psychological mechanism that makes the connection feel more important the less consistent it is. And the most dangerous part is that they do not even have to try to do it. The pattern does the work for them. One day you feel chosen. The next day, you feel erased. And your brain starts treating their attention like oxygen. You think you miss them, but what your body is doing is chasing relief. Because the moment they pull away, your nervous system spikes. And the moment they return, even in the smallest way, a like, a one-word text, a late-night check-in, your body drops into calm like you just got rescued. That drop is not romance. That drop is conditioning. And once your body learns that they are the switch between panic and peace, you stop evaluating the relationship like an adult. You start scanning it like a gambler. You start looking for signs. You start living for the next hit. You start negotiating with crumbs because your nervous system believes crumbs are better than withdrawal. That is how they keep you hooked without trying. Now, here is the part most people miss. People think being hooked means you are obsessed with the person. But most of the time, you are hooked to a cycle. You are hooked to the spike, the uncertainty, the relief, the temporary reunion, the return to hunger. A stable love does not create that loop. A stable love creates a steady baseline. But a push-pull dynamic creates contrast. And contrast is what makes the moment feel electric. Because your brain does not measure love by meaning. Your brain measures love by intensity and prediction. When something is predictable, your nervous system relaxes. When something is unpredictable, your nervous system wakes up. So the avoidant dynamic often feels like the most powerful chemistry you have ever had, not because it is the deepest bond, but because it is the most activating pattern. And if you want to stop being controlled by it, and yes, if you want the best chance of getting an avoidant back without crawling, you need to understand the recipe. Because once you understand the recipe, you stop chasing the feeling, and you start changing the conditions. There are 3 ingredients that keep you hooked. The first is variable reward. This is the same mechanism that makes people addicted to casinos, scrolling, and anything that pays out randomly. If someone is kind all the time, your system calms. If someone is cold all the time, your system eventually detaches. But if someone is warm sometimes and cold other times, your system cannot settle. It keeps checking. It keeps hoping. It keeps trying to solve the pattern. Variable reward makes your brain say, maybe. And maybe is the most addictive word in attachment. Because maybe means you cannot close the loop. You cannot conclude. You cannot grieve cleanly. You cannot walk away with certainty. Maybe keeps you in a state of mental labor. And mental labor is still a bond. This is why you can be exhausted and still attached. The second ingredient is ambiguity. Ambiguity is when the connection never becomes a clear yes or a clear no. It is the relationship equivalent of being left on red emotionally. They do not commit. They do not end it. They keep it hovering. They keep it just alive enough to keep you invested. And your mind interprets that hovering as unfinished business. Your brain hates unfinished business. Your brain will keep returning to it, replaying it, trying to complete it. That is why you think about them while you are driving, showering, working, trying to sleep. Your mind is trying to complete a story that never resolves. The third ingredient is identity threat. This is the one that makes it feel personal. Because when someone pulls away from you, your mind does not just miss them. Your mind starts negotiating your worth. It starts asking, what did I do wrong? What am I missing? Why am I not enough? Why can they be consistent for other people? Why do they keep showing me just enough to keep me in their orbit? And the moment your worth gets fused to their behavior, you become easier to control. Not because you are weak, but because you are trying to repair your identity through their approval. That is the trap. So when you say they keep you hooked without trying, what you really mean is the pattern is engineered to keep you psychologically engaged. And the avoidant does not have to be a villain for this to be true. Many avoidants are not sitting there plotting. Many of them genuinely do not know what they are doing. They just know closeness activates them, so they create distance to regulate. Then, distance creates their own anxiety, so they come back for a sip. Then the sip makes you calmer, which lowers pressure, which makes them feel safe again. And now the cycle keeps moving. The reason you cannot let go is because your body has learned that the cycle is the only place where relief exists. Let me make this painfully clear. When you are in a push-pull dynamic, you are not chasing love. You are chasing the end of discomfort. You are chasing the moment your chest unclenches. You are chasing the moment your stomach stops dropping. You are chasing the moment your brain stops screaming. And that is why the smallest text from them can feel like a drug. Because it is not the text, it is the drop. Now here is the part that makes you powerful. If you can name the mechanism, you can stop feeding it. And if you stop feeding it, two things happen at the same time. 1, your nervous system stabilizes, which gives you back your judgment. 2, the dynamic changes, because the loop only works when you participate. Avoidants get to stay avoidant when someone else keeps carrying the emotional labor. When you stop carrying it, the system has to adapt. This is where most people mess up. They think no contact is the solution. No contact is a tool. The solution is not only contact, the solution is access. Access is your attention, your availability, your emotional volunteering. You can be in no contact and still be feeding the loop all day, checking their online status, watching their stories fast, rereading messages, rehearsing what you will say, imagining the reunion, waiting for the next sign. That is still participation. That is still energetic access. And avoidant systems can feel that you are still there. They may not name it, but they can sense availability. And as long as availability is guaranteed, distance stays cheap. So if you want a real shift, the goal is clean access, not dramatic silence. Clean access means your attention is not being donated to uncertainty. It means your mind stops paying rent to someone who is not living with you emotionally. And this is where the title matters. They keep you hooked without trying because your mind keeps trying for them. Your mind keeps negotiating. Your mind keeps making excuses. Your mind keeps turning breadcrumbs into meaning. So the first move is mental clarity. Words without behavior do not count. That one sentence ends the obsession for a lot of people because it stops the mind from scanning for hidden meaning. It forces the brain to measure reality, not potential. If they say they miss you but disappear again, it does not count. If they say they care but refuse consistency, it does not count. If they flirt but avoid repair, it does not count. Your nervous system gets hooked when it treats words as proof. But proof is behavior. Now, let us talk about what to do when they pull away, because this is where you either regain leverage or you lose yourself. The first 24 hours after you feel the pull away are the most dangerous because your nervous system starts bargaining. You start scanning their tone. You start rereading. You start thinking, if I say the right thing, I can prevent the distance. But when you act from panic, you teach an avoidant that distance gives them power. You teach them that your standards collapse when they withdraw. And that becomes the blueprint. So your first rule is simple. Do not act at the peak. If you feel urgency, that is the signal to pause. Not to play games, to protect your position. Urgency makes you sloppy. Sloppy creates pressure. Pressure extends distance. This is why people who chase get less. Now, the second rule is how you communicate when you do communicate. Most people think the way to fix an avoidant dynamic is to send a long emotional message that explains pain and asks to be seen. That message feels mature, but in an avoidant system, it often reads as pressure and expectation. Pressure triggers obligation. Obligation triggers fear. Fear triggers withdrawal. Withdrawal triggers your panic. And now, you are back in the loop. So, if you need to send anything, it has to be short, calm, self-led. No accusation, no pleading, no trial. Just a clean signal that does two things at the same time. It lowers pressure and it raises standards. Lower pressure means you are not demanding closeness right now. Raise standards means you are not available for inconsistency. This is what calm and firm means. Calm is your tone. Firm is your behavior. Calm says, I am not trying to trap you. Firm says, I am not willing to be trapped either. That combination is rare. That combination is magnetic to avoidant systems because it removes the two things that keep them stuck. It removes the fear of being consumed, and it removes the comfort of having you no matter what. Here is the uncomfortable truth that changes your entire strategy. Avoidants come back when two conditions happen at the same time. They feel safe from pressure, and they feel a real consequence to distance. If you only do safety, they relax into avoidance. You become the comfortable option they do not have to show up for. If you only do consequence, they feel punished and controlled, and they run. You need both. So when they pull away, your job is not to convince them to stay. Your job is to hold a climate where staying is earned and distance is not rewarded. That is how you keep your dignity and increase the chance of a real return. Now, let us talk about the hook in your brain, because until you break this, you will keep going back even when you swear you will not. The hook is the belief that the next signal will equal safety. Your nervous system has learned that when they return, you feel better. So your body starts treating the return as the solution. But the return is not the solution if the pattern stays the same. The return is only a reset of the addiction cycle. And that is why you feel worse after every reunion. Because you got relief, not repair. So the new rule is reward staying, not return. This is the single biggest shift that changes avoidant dynamics over time. If they disappear and then come back with a low-effort probe, and you respond fast, warm, over-available, over-grateful, you teach them a deadly lesson. I can leave, I can come back, and I will be rewarded for returning without changing. If you want them back in a way that becomes real, you cannot train them to believe that distance buys them power and return buys them relief. You have to train a different pattern. Consistency gets rewarded. Repair gets rewarded. Staying gets rewarded. Not attention, not apology, not a random midnight text. This is where people get scared because they think if I do not reward the return, they will leave. But if they leave because you did not collapse into relief, they were not returning to build. They were returning to check access. And access without responsibility is exactly what keeps you hooked. So yes, it is scary, but it is also the only move that produces a different outcome. Now, let us go deeper into why they do this without trying. Avoidant systems often regulate through distance. That means when closeness increases, their nervous system interprets it as obligation. Not love, obligation. The responsibility to perform closeness, to soothe, to explain, to stay present. Their system says, this will cost me my autonomy. So they pull away to feel like themselves again. Then, once they have distance, a different fear can activate. The fear of loss. The fear of being replaced. The fear of having miscalculated. But because they are trained to hide vulnerability, they do not reach with clean honesty. They reach with low risk. They do something that keeps them safe. A small text, a reaction, a like, a memory, a check-in that can be framed as casual. That is why it feels like they miss you but still do not text you directly. They feel, they hide, and they probe. This is also why you get trapped in decoding, because you are trying to translate a person who speaks in indirect signals into a person who speaks in direct commitment. So the solution is not to decode harder. The solution is to stop paying for love with analysis. You want one way to know if you are hooked or bonded. Ask yourself this: do you feel calmer over time with them, or do you feel calmer only when they return after leaving? Bond creates baseline calm. Hook creates relief spikes. If your calm depends on their return, you are not in safety. You are in a cycle. Now, none of this means your feelings are fake. You can have real feelings inside a distorted loop. That is what makes it hard. You can genuinely care about them and still be conditioned by inconsistency. You can genuinely see their softness and still be trapped by their distance. So the goal is not to become cold. The goal is to become accurate. Accuracy is what breaks the hook, because accuracy stops the signal economy. The signal economy is when you treat every tiny sign as currency. A look means hope. A like means progress. A short reply means they still care. But signals are not stability. Signals are not a relationship. Signals are often the minimum needed to keep access alive. So you stop feeding the signal economy. You stop acting at the peak. You stop rewarding return. You start rewarding staying. And you start measuring behavior, not potential. Now, if your real goal is to get an avoidant back, let me say it cleanly. The people who have the highest chance of a real return are not the people who love the hardest. They are the people who become calm and firm. Calm and firm is the combination that removes pressure and installs consequence. Calm and firm is what makes an avoidant system feel safe enough to come closer and clear enough to respect you. Because avoidants are not attracted to speeches, they are attracted to climates. They respond to emotional weather. If your weather is anxious, chasing, bargaining, explaining, they feel pressure and they escape. If your weather is cold, punishing, dramatic, they feel controlled and they escape. But if your weather is steady, self-led, warm but not available for half in, half out, something shifts. They can breathe. And once they can breathe, they can feel. That is why silence works when it is clean. Not because you are manipulating them, but because you are removing the pressure that makes closeness feel dangerous, while keeping the standard that makes distance expensive. That is the sweet spot. Now, I want to give you a final truth that closes the loop in your brain. The reason you feel hooked is not because you cannot love properly. It is because your nervous system learned to treat inconsistency as a problem to solve. So it keeps solving. It keeps trying. It keeps negotiating. And the moment you stop solving, you stop being hooked. You let their pattern be what it is. You stop converting potential into hope. You stop turning signals into proof. You stop paying with anxiety. And you start moving like someone who understands the game without becoming a player. That is what makes you magnetic. Not because you are distant, because you are stable. And stability is the one thing an avoidant system can feel but cannot control. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.